That's also our alarm to get started, right? It is 6 o'clock on my, for everyone, yes. Good evening, those of you who have joined us in person, those of you who are live streaming or watching this later through the recording. My name is nprange, and I am the post-secondary counselor here at Parkway Central High School. This is year 24 for me at Parkway Central, so I taught here initially for 7 years, and the rest of my time has been in our counseling team. In addition to being a resource for students and families, I also coordinate the A+ scholarship program. I will touch briefly on that this evening, have connections with college admission representatives, meet with students and parents throughout the year, beginning as early as a student or family would like to meet with me. My calendar fills very quickly in the fall with seniors and college admission representatives coming to meet with students, but I am at all times happy to meet with individual students, parents, together separately. My online scheduling tool allows for students and family members to schedule either virtually or in person. So if it's more convenient for you to book an appointment with me and use a Google Meet, that is available as well every school day from 7:15 to 3:15. My email is listed at the bottom, and you are likely here because you are receiving messages from me. So at any point, feel free to reach out. Other than me, a lot of resources can be found on our counseling website. So simply going to the Parkway Central High School website will get you access to a lot of different information. Tonight we are focusing a bit more on that senior class, so there is a link specifically for the senior class. Those of you that have younger students, there are also pages for juniors, sophomores, freshmen, just to simply get an idea of whether it's the curriculum that the counselors, the comprehensive counselors, are meeting with students about in freshman and sophomore year, or the workshops that I am hosting with students in junior or senior year. All of that information is there, as well as handouts, websites, links to additional information. There is a senior planning calendar. It can be very overwhelming, so that's just a resource that could help you as well. How to access that is simply going to Parkway Central High School, and as you see the banner across the top, we're right in the middle. So you would click on counseling, and then again you can see the information along the side. In addition to those class pages that I was mentioning, there is information about volunteering, enrichment opportunities, the A+ scholarship program, requesting transcripts, linking to Naviance, which is our college platform tool that we use. So I will reference that a lot as well. And my email will be on that page. So speaking of Naviance, this is a tool that the district has utilized for a few decades. The program used to be one of a kind, and now there's a lot of competition. So if you are the family of a 9th, 10th grader, it is possible that Naviance will evolve and change into something new, but for now, that is still the tool that we are using. The information that you can find in there, historical acceptance data, is very valuable. So it has data for all Parkway Central students who have applied to institutions and whether they were accepted. The chart that is available is simply referencing their GPA and test scores, and as we will learn this evening, that isn't necessarily all that is involved with the application process, but it gives students a reference point of whether or not their academic profile might be competitive at a specific institution. So that is something parents have told me throughout the years, that they get lost and spiraled in sucking their time of like checking every single scattergram for all of the different schools. It can be overwhelming, but it also can be informative. What I share with the students is simply keeping in mind, if it is a school that's looking at a lot more than that, this isn't a magic formula, it's just a reference point. I have also sent out recently information about college reps who are visiting Parkway Central. Those visits actually started today. So maybe as you were waiting at the light coming into Central, you might have seen the marquee that was scrolling like, here are all the colleges visiting PCH this week. That is something that really continues throughout the fall. So college admission representatives travel into St. Louis. Some of them have regional reps who live in St. Louis, and they schedule time to bounce around to all of the different high schools and connect with students. They are meeting with me if no one else shows up. I'm taking notes. I'm putting those in Naviance. So as you go to a college in Naviance, like there's a whole section that's counselor comments. If I attend a conference and I'm getting updates from colleges, I'm posting all of that so it's visible for everyone to see. For Naviance, as you see, the students really started accessing that resource in middle school. It began phasing out, so most certainly by 9th grade. The first counselor workshop with their comprehensive counselors, we're logging into Naviance, they're doing interest inventories, strengths explorers, those kind of career surveys. If your student transitioned in after that freshman year, it's possible that those are tasks that are still listed. For our current seniors, those tasks were assigned when we were in distance learning. So we might have had them again, let's try this again, and continue, oh, those still aren't done. So anytime I'm meeting with a student, I'm going to look in that careers section and see, like, have they completed their Strengths Explorer, their Career Interest Profiler, and those are things that, as parents, you could see the results. Speaking of seeing those results, the Naviance system has a way for me to activate a parent account. If it's one more thing that you don't want to have access to, that's fine. If you would love to be able to log into the tool and see your student's profile, navigate through, most of the stuff in the parent portal is view only, but some of the things you can actually add colleges into their consideration section. You can see all of the scholarships that are posted in there. So if your account is not yet active and you would like for it to be, you can simply email me and I click a button, and then it will send you your login information. So this is the tool that the seniors are going to be using heavily during the application season. What they get confused about is Naviance is not where they apply. Naviance is where they navigate all of their required supporting documents, how they request their transcript be sent to that college, or invite teachers to write letters of recommendation, and the teachers are uploading, and I'm bundling that with their transcript and their senior year schedule and getting those things sent to the colleges. The other piece is logging in, of course, to see all of the scholarship opportunities, okay? There's nothing hidden in my drawer. It is really, if I find out about an opportunity or if something is emailed or it's annual, I'm going to be posting that in Naviance for everyone to see. So again, to get to Naviance, you start at the Parkway Central Counseling website. So from the counseling website, Naviance is a link on there, and they will log in as a student. And then there's a clever login feature so they don't have to remember a separate username or password. It's simply clicking Log In with Clever, that they're at Parkway Central High School, and then it connects with their Parkway Google account. Another resource, in addition to me and our website and Naviance, is that we do partner with a local nonprofit organization called Mentors for College. They were founded many years ago as a parent group at Parkway North, and then it has expanded to where they are supporting many regional school districts in the St. Louis area. They still hold special reservations for Parkway, though, right? So much like you are going through this process and learning as much as possible, their foundation is really stemming from, I learned all of this, and now I want to help others, right? So you go through this process, and now you know how college admissions, how the applications work, you've survived, and then I want to give back and help support other families who are doing this for the first time. So many of them are previous parents in the school districts who are going through the process. There is training for each of those individuals. But one really cool thing, in addition to, you can go to their website, sign up to have a mentor assigned to you. I was available Monday through Friday, 7:15 to 3:15, but they're doing this as a volunteer basis, so they're available in the evenings or on the weekends to connect with you, to come to your home, to meet you somewhere, and give you additional support through the process. They also host monthly webinars about college-related topics, and you can see all of the recorded webinars, so you can go back and watch different things. And they're 30 minutes, so they're kind of quick takes on things that are happening in college admissions or how to create your college list, and they have those all throughout the year. So they are a great resource for us. Mentorsforcollege.org is their website. So for our senior parents, as I mentioned to our seniors in the theater, our first goal is to graduate, right? We cannot lose sight of that. We have to make sure that we're on track, that we're checking all the boxes, and that we're not losing sight of our year is to earn that diploma, our credits, but it's also to make sure we're prepared for the next step. So for that graduation piece, as I spoke with them, the comprehensive counselors, so Dr. Flagg, Ms. Lange, Mr. Hussmann, and Mrs. Greenwood, are checking those credits, but students are instructed to make sure that they know what they need as well. So we spent some time during our meeting talking about what those credits look like. We've looked at that wheel since 8th grade of what kind of credits we need. Something that I mentioned to them, which I am now mentioning to you again. Last May, we had around 50 seniors who still had not completed their Missouri Civics Assessment. It is not a part of a class. It is something that the district started emailing them about in middle school, and they receive an email from the district assessment office every semester until it's finished. After the meeting, some came up and I always ignore that and just delete it. How do I get it again? So it is like a checkbox that you have to actually conquer. There were a lot of seniors last May to get that diploma, right? You still haven't done this, you still haven't done this. Sit down and do it. It has 5 parts. They email you part 1. Once you complete it, you get part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. You can take part 1 as many times as you need to until you pass it to get part 2. And on average, when I was looking at the timestamps of those exams coming in, Most seniors were completing all 5 sections in 30 minutes. Again, they've had access to it since 8th grade, but that's just something like making sure, even though we're telling them, get this done, make sure you're doing this. I think as of our senior meeting, 190 had not yet done it in the class. So they've received an alert from me. How do you know if they've done it or not? In Infinite Campus, you can pull up their transcript. So if you click on Documents and pull up the transcript, there's an assessment section, and it should say, Missouri Constitution Exam, pass. U.S. Constitution Exam, pass. Civics Assessment, pass. If one of those is missing, that's something we need to conquer this year, okay? The end of course exams, Dr. Bird is in charge of those, and so he will be following up with students who potentially need to fill any gaps with those exams, but they're offered in the fall and spring as well. If you have any questions, again, the comprehensive counselors have access to making sure like all the credits, all the assessments, and getting those reminders. Email's overwhelming, so they may be getting emails about stuff, but just making sure that you are navigating that. Okay, as far as our matriculation for Parkway Central, this is just our data of the most recent class and what students are doing, where they are going. So we are heavily focused on our mass communication, like this evening is about applying to college. But as I spoke with the seniors, that is not the path for everyone. Every year we have a small percentage of students who are choosing another option. I am here to support those paths as well. But as you can see, the majority of our students are applying to college during this season. The community college, that 2-year college, really we saw a boost in the quantity of people who are starting at that level with the development of the A+ scholarship program. It's funded by the state of Missouri as a way for students to attend community college in Missouri or technical school for their tuition to be covered with that scholarship. So we will talk about that, but a lot of students use that because financially it makes the most sense for them to have the first 2 years of school completely, like the tuition covered. Some might need a fresh start with their GPA. Maybe they are looking at applying to some institutions and high school had a bumpy start. And even though they're pulling it up, they are not yet as competitive as they would like to be. And so they might start at the community college to get kind of that clean slate, get a strong GPA to apply to a 4-year institution. And then for others, like maybe that's sufficient for their plan, that they are going to get an associate's degree, and that's their final destination. Our community college has a ton of great pre-employment programs as well, so we certainly see students who fall into those categories. The 4-year institutions, as you can see, and colleges look at that. How many, like, are they gonna really go out of state? Are they gonna stay close to home? And so they kind of look at our historical data to get a feel for, oh, that is a school we can actually recruit from because they leave Missouri. So that is just the information that we have. I also shared, so for the students who are looking for alternate paths on our website, I keep a list of programs that students from Central have utilized in the past. And sometimes it's, recruiters who are asking, like, please advertise this opportunity. We really want your students. So if college is not necessarily the next best step for your student, there are a lot of programs and opportunities, and as you can probably see from this slide, they're all links. So you go to that website, look at the list, and then you can actually look at, be linked directly to some of those programs. So for the four-year college, and I'll kind of shift more in that direction for a moment, just wanting to bring kind of some trends to the forefront when you think about the process. For those of you who applied to college yourself, if you applied to college in the United States, it's very different. I applied with a piece of paper, right? I'm filling out applications and putting them in the mail. It was not online. And when you think about where people applied, it was more regionally. And now really with the online applications and the mobility of students, really they're applying everywhere. Not just regionally. So the volume simply of applications is increasing. So the competition moving it's still really high in many destinations. Something that has really evolved since the pandemic is this idea of test optional, that if you take an SAT or an ACT and you love your score, send it to us and we'll consider it in your file. If you don't take one or you don't like it or it doesn't reflect your abilities, don't send it. So most schools, as you can see, around 80% are still allowing that test optional pathway. Some are test blind even, where you can't send it even if you have it and love it. So every single school is different, so you really have to dig into what that looks like. As the University of Chicago was here earlier today and he was talking to the students, the idea that you have to actually even look at each institution, right? So my score might fall in the middle 50 percentile for school X, and it might be significantly below the middle 50 percentile for the next school. So I might use my score at one school and apply test optional to another. So you're making the decision by each institution. Early admissions, so when we talk about the fall deadlines, November 1 is very big versus the winter deadlines of January. The early window is becoming more common, right? Where many schools, students, like the vast majority, applied regular decision in January. Now that shift has really moved to the fall. Some schools in Georgia, South Carolina might even have October 15 deadlines. So that is coming soon. There is a difference between early decision and early action, and it can be very confusing. So my tip for that is early decision, you have already decided that you're attending that school. I've decided this is where I'm going. So you can apply early decision to only one institution. Early decision is a commitment. It's a binding contract that you're signing that says, if I'm accepted, I will attend. Okay? What does that do for the college? They have egos, right? So you're telling them, you're my number one. If you accept me, I'm 100% coming here, right? So you're a guaranteed matriculation. If they accept you, they know that you're coming. So early decision, I've already decided. Not every school offers early decision, okay? If you want to go to UCLA, and that's your number one school, it's not a choice. So you're not going to apply early decision somewhere else and make a commitment somewhere else if your first choice school doesn't actually offer it. If WashU is your first choice, then you're saying when you apply by November 1st, I'm coming here if you accept me, and I have no idea how much it's going to cost, right? Because we haven't even applied for financial aid yet, right? So what they want you to do is every single website, every school is mandated to have something called a net price calculator. The net price calculator gives you an idea of what your financial aid package should look like. So you would want to do that before you do an early decision contract, okay? Several years ago, we had a student apply early decision Vanderbilt. They were accepted and then said, oh, wait, she didn't get any money? Like, we're not interested in that anymore, right? So you've signed this contract that says that you are planning to attend. Well, didn't get any money because the school is focused on need-based aid. So if your financial status shows that you actually have the capacity to cover the cost of attendance, guess what they expect you to do? Cover the cost of attendance. If your capacity says, like, I can cover this much, then the school knows that, right? And they're looping around you. Many of the highly selectives have no loan packages, but you're doing this process on the front. What is my financial aid likely going to be? Calling the financial aid office, right? And making sure that you understand everything, and then signing that contract if it really is your first choice. Can it increase your chances for admission? Any guesses? The acceptance rate is much higher, right? So WashU was here today. Their general selectivity, their admission rate is they admit around 10% of their candidates. Okay, of the students that apply, they admit around 10%. But their early decision pool is closer to 20, 25. That's a big difference, right? The number of candidates applying, however, is also very different. It's a much smaller applicant pool. It's students who are like all in, right? This is my number one. And, you know, whether or not they would also be admitted regular, we'll never know, right? But the pool is different. Selectivity is still similar, but you have less competition. They don't know what's coming in regular decision yet. So you're only comparing yourself with everyone else that's applying early, okay? That is all early decision. Early action, there is no contract. You are not signing to attend a specific institution. You're simply taking action. I'm going to get my application in by November. I'm not going to wait till January. I'm actually going to get it turned in so that I know if I'm accepted, usually around winter break. Sometimes it goes a little bit into January. But you have your decision sooner. If you apply in January, you often don't know whether you're admitted or not until the spring. So what do you want your timeline to look like, right? We also know that all of these applications come in during November, and what are those admits doing? Filling the seats, right? So they're taking and already filling in the spots, and so what's left in regular decision, right, when those January applications come along? A lot of times, the early action deadline could also be the priority deadline for scholarship consideration, and competitive programs. So if it's a direct admit nursing and those seats are going to be filled very quickly, they're going to tell you, like, if you don't hit early action, there might not be anything left. Okay? Also, for the scholarship priority, the reason they want your application in is maybe they have some competitive scholarships that open in December, and you can't apply for them unless you've been accepted. So you got to get your application in November, so then you have access to those competitive scholarships. If you wait until January, you might have missed those deadlines. It's not always the case. If the school only offers early decision or regular decision, they're not going to have regular decision students miss out on opportunities just because you won't sign a contract. But if they offer early action and regular, not binding, then they could offer those priorities. Okay, does that make sense? Early decision, early action, very different. Anyone heard of ChatGPT? I didn't use it to write anything I'm saying, but do colleges think that students are using them for applications? You betcha. So over time, I think the general feeling is like, it's not a bad thing, but does it impact the authentic nature of getting to know a particular student? It certainly can. So as the colleges are trying to analyze, like, what do we do now? The general consensus is that the heavy weight of that essay could start decreasing, right? Most of them last year were saying, like, it's pretty obvious, like, you can tell different things, or how some things are communicated or expressed, but I'm sure the technology is only getting better, right? So, being able to navigate some of those things. So those schools that are really looking at essays as a significant component, what we're seeing more of is, okay, talk to me in a video. I want to see your face. I want to hear you talking. Now tell me this. So they're making adaptions as well, so that they really are getting that authentic display, okay? So the essays are overwhelming, they are stressful, sometimes there are a lot of them to navigate, but what we're seeing kind of right now is the introduction of some of those video components. Most of them are optional right now, but I think that's a way to make the college understand and know, like, I'm real, I'm not just paper, and I'm going to introduce myself to you. Some ugly facts. When we think about the selectivity of institutions and universities, just within the last 15 years, 20 years, this is not going in the right direction. Right? This chart is slipping down the mountain. But what you're seeing is that pretty much every single Ivy is below a 10% admit rate. Whereas, we initially had a Cornell like 30% admit rate. So the idea of, like, why is it so hard, right? Our students are working so hard. Their academic profiles are so high. They aren't even sleeping, right? All they're doing is working and, creating this amazing resume, and still, it's nearly impossible to get in. Again, a lot of those trends of the volume of applications and the movement even throughout the world, international students coming through. What colleges are doing, anyone get mail from colleges in your house? Yeah. My oldest is in 10th grade. This was just this week. Like, he's never taken a test. Like, he's not on a radar. He was in DECA and went to a competition and got on a list, right? But this is legit, like, Owen, right? Vanderbilt, right? So what message does that send? They have no idea anything about him. They don't know his test scores. They don't know his GPA. But it actually has his name. So what that feels like is recruitment, right? I want you. I have no idea if you're like even academically qualified. And so I'm going to promote, like, come here, check us out, and then deny you. Is what happens. Not for everyone, right? They're admitting 10% of their candidates, but the quantity of students applying, like just generationally, is decreasing, but the colleges have to keep up, so they're really heavy with their marketing. Some of them are really good at their marketing. So the students want to apply, right? I always say, like, they don't know anything about you other than potentially you took an ACT, a PSAT. So they know that you're considering college, right? I went to a college fair. I scanned in. I know that you're interested in researching college. So you're on a list. And now here comes all of the stuff. So you have to actually then look at the school, look at their academic profile, do that next step to see, is this a school I'm even interested in? Am I a competitive applicant? And then make those decisions about applying. Colleges care a lot, especially the highly selective, about their ranking. They all want to be like number one or move from 4 to 3 like every year, and how can they do that? One factor that comes into play is their selectivity. So if they're denying more students, then they're more selective, which equates somehow to more prestigious, a better institution, right? So you have to think about, like, if I can get here on the list, I'll get more money. So how can we do that? We can deny more students, okay? No more seats, right? They're not building additional dorms and housing to expand their campus with these recruitment efforts. So sometimes we know the Ivies, right? But this is the data from the class of 2023. This is not to be a defeating part of the presentation, even though it could feel like that. But the reason I share this information is to make sure that we are realistic moving into the process. Denials typically have nothing to do with the students' academic abilities, their ability to even be successful on that campus. But the odds, right? The volume of people. So, even a school, like 2 years ago, I had a dad, after a presentation, I went to Tulane, and my grades weren't that great, and my child's grades are so good. That will be a slam dunk, right? But things change, right? And what they're looking for and the fact that they're in that 10% window is not how it's always been. So understanding, knowing that selectivity can help just frame the process. So when a student comes and says, can you take a look at my list? How does it look? And it looks like this. Those are awesome. Those are great schools. And you're probably like, if we're having that conversation, they're likely on the list because you're competitive at those schools. But if that's all of your schools, right, then you're giving yourself less than 20% chance of being admitted to college. So we have to create a list that has variety in selectivity. You might hear of it as like your safety or your slam dunks, your targets, your reach schools, and really anything falling in, below 20% is a reach for everyone. It can't be a guaranteed admit unless you have like an inside scoop, right? But what I also see is, okay, that's my list, and then I need a safety, so I also added Mizzou. No shame to Mizzou, M-I-Z. However, is that where you'll go? Are you going to be excited to attend that institution? If yes, awesome. There's your list. But if that's not, what I get is, but I don't want to go there, right? A backup's not a backup if you don't want to go there. So it's creating that middle ground of, where can I look at a higher acceptance rate to filter in my list that I also will be so excited about, okay? That whenever it's May, and all year long, there's a few seniors in here, all year long it's, where are you going to college? All year long. Where are you applying? Where are you getting in? Where are you going? And when we're at the very end, senior week, you're in finals, you're wearing your gear, I want you to be excited about that. And you want them to be excited about that as well. So it's just creating that balance. What that looks like in numbers, again, I'm looped back to the Ivies just because it's easy to get their data. They could fill their class over and over and over and over again with qualified candidates, right? There weren't, out of 20, 30, 40,000 people, there weren't only 2,000 that were good enough. It's not about that, right? They're also blending and forming their freshman class with diverse majors, diverse perspectives, and they are pulling from 40, 50,000 options, right? Again, they over-admit to get their expected class, and then they're hoping, right, that it all shakes out perfectly for them. So when we even think about wait lists, right? I was waitlisted. Out of those accepted, how many actually say, yes, I'm going to come? So navigating through that. It's pretty shocking to look at some of the data. So those harsh realities, again, what a downer these slides have been. And I say it all year long, especially with denials. It does not define you. It does not determine what you are going to be capable of achieving. It is determining your initial destination for the next part of your academic journey. Most students, even if they're heartbroken in the process, land at their plan B, second choice, whatever the case might be. I don't know why this is happening. This isn't where I wanted to go. I'm just going to transfer. And then a few weeks in, I get an email like, this is so amazing. I love it. This is where I'm supposed to be, right? Does that happen 100% of the time? No. I also help students send transcripts to transfer applications. But it really is like the majority of our students land where they're supposed to land. And, you know, we don't maybe always understand the process. But decisions are very confusing, right? You might hear of like, ooh, this person had a, 35 ACT and a 4.6 GPA. How did they not get in everywhere they applied? Right? Like, are they academically capable of being successful on all campuses? Yes. Like they've created that historical data that they're taking the most rigorous path available to them, excelling at the highest level. But when you think about that, doesn't make it like a good fit school for them. It's not just those two components. They want you to be happy there. They want you to dive in. They are all unique, so they're really looking at those individual components of the application, the essays, the activities, what you're writing about, if you do the video, right? They're getting to learn as much about you as possible to see, like, is this your place? Will you find your people here? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to dive in and get involved? We're not probably questioning, are you going to be okay academically, right? If you have those strong profiles. So you'll see, like, how did that happen? But again, they're trying to build that whole freshman class. Maybe someone with a lower GPA or was able to be admitted. Maybe they didn't even send their test scores, right? But they're going to be the best saxophone player on campus, right? They may have a special talent that they're bringing. So there could be a lot of components that aren't on a chart, right? Obviously, I've hit on many of those things. The agendas of the university, we don't know what they are. We hope that it's to increase the population of students they're accepting from the St. Louis region. But that's not always the case. So another bullet, this one can be confusing to families, right? If I have a really high achieving student, then college could be free, right? I'll get all these scholarships. And that is possible at some institutions. But these highly selective institutions, everyone they're accepting has a similar academic profile. So their funds are not based on merit, your achievements, your talents. They're based on family need. So if, just like the example before, got in but expected to pay full price, okay? Again, when you're building that college list of where you're applying, we're creating a list that works for you academically, socially, and financially. All three components. So if your financial component, again, net price calculators, seeing what works, and there would be schools where some students, like, we have students every year, like, they're getting paid to do their undergrad. And they've chosen that path because they know that they're going to go on to professional school. So I'm going to do my undergrad for free and then save this college fund for med school, law school, my master's degree, whatever, okay? So thinking about, like, how long is this school journey going to be and what makes sense? Yes, we've talked about some of those things. Okay, so when I first started in this field, this was one of the first quotes that I saw, and I've kept it with me for a long, long time, clearly. But we're trying to find a good match. You know, every year I hear, like, if a denial comes through and the response is, why did I even do this? Why did I work hard? Why did I care about my grades? Why did I get involved with anything? Okay, we're not trying to achieve a prize or a reward. Like, you're trying to find the best fit. And so you're doing all of those things to be prepared for the next step in your journey. So again, is it a good fit in all of those three fields? And then check, like, what are the odds? What does that selectivity look like? And they're like, what was their acceptance rate? What's their average academic profile? Some of them will share the GPA average and test score average, some only one or the other. But those are things that you would want to look at as you're building that list. For the actual applications, target is usually around like 6 to 8 schools. The common application does allow you to add up to 20. Have I had students fill all 20? Already do this year. And applying for some extra schools on the side. But what you have to think about is your balance. So yes, we're creating range of like making sure that my list varies in selectivity, but also the volume, looking at how many essays is this going to be? What are my deadlines? Are they spaced out? Or are they all November 1st? You know, can I manage without compromising the quality? So if I'm looking at writing 3 extra essays for Michigan, or I'm applying to their business school and I also have to create a business plan and portfolio, that's a lot. Do I have time to do all of these things? So then what we do is like, well, I want to throw my net really wide. And then guess what I'm doing? Copy, paste, and then my essays are all generic, right? Like, if they ask an essay about, like, why are you interested in this institution? I can't copy and paste that from something else because that institution is unique in how they operate and how they do their curriculum, in what their culture is on campus. So to be authentic, you have to create, you know, balance. Can I navigate 18 applications? Some of them are also like $80 to apply, right? Times 20. So as you think about that, it's really important to just figure out, like, what can I actually manage? And there's homework, right? We still have school that's happening. So it's very overwhelming. It can be a lot. So again, just creating that variety. When they go to apply, most schools have multiple application types. You can apply using the Common App. You can apply on our website. There's another like coalition application. When you have options, what is important for you to know, some people will try to convince you otherwise, the college does not care. It doesn't show extra special, like, I love you so much if I use your application versus the Common App. Doesn't matter at all, okay? If you're applying to Clark Atlanta, a student in my office today, do you want to do the Common Black College app? Do you want to use the Common App? Doesn't matter. But if you're applying to many HBCUs, there are not as many on the Common App as there are on the CBCA app. It's supposed to be driven by your list, what makes sense for you, so that you are doing the least amount of applications, okay? no preference. What makes sense for you? Again, we talked about early decision, early action, all of those things. Early decision, I've signed a contract. I have to go. Early action or priority deadlines, that's my target for all students. Try to get in and hit those early action or priority deadlines for each of your schools. Again, that could be as early as October 15th. It could be, most of them are November 1, few are November 15, some are December 1. So as you look at the list, it could be that you're a little bit scattered and you have time to do that. Another question I get is like, can I apply early decision? And then if I don't get in, do the rest regular decision. So I'm going to apply early decision to Wash U. If I don't get accepted, I don't want to mess with any other applications, just this one. And then if I don't get in, I'll do all of my other applications in January. The disadvantage of that, yeah, you've saved yourself a lot of essays maybe because you are waiting to apply. But if you are not accepted, then if you missed out on early action priority at other schools. So really, the regular decision route, the only benefit, the only reason you should lean to that is if early action is not a choice. A priority deadline is not a choice. Okay? Some student, back in the day, used to wait and apply regular decision in January so that first semester of senior year grades were on their transcript. I just want one more semester to be on here. Our grades for first semester are added to transcripts, I think, the week of January 20-something. So if you apply November 1st or January 1st, we're sending the same exact transcript. Okay? Is November soon? It is. It is soon. But that really should be the target, especially for the schools that are most important to you. Another component is if you have a student that's thinking about athletics in college, just a reminder that for the NCAA, Division I and Division II, those are scholarship eligible divisions, so you must meet academic requirements to be eligible for those scholarships. So you have to create an account with the NCAA. I have to upload your transcript. They check all of your core classes. Division I is the most competitive, and the core GPA they're looking for is a 2.3. 2.3 or take a knee is their cute little motto. So Division II is a little bit lower. Division III cannot give scholarships for athletics, so there's no requirement for your transcript to be reviewed. If you're thinking D3, then or even D2, I often say lean also to look at the NAIA schools because they also have scholarships for athletes and do not have the strict NCAA core course requirements. So that's just another layer. If you're applying, you cannot go on official visits with colleges until you have been cleared through that NCAA and have that account and ID. I have that. Yep, so make sure that that's a component. If you are applying to visual or performing arts programs, probably the most intense would be theater, musical theater kinds of programs, a lot of pre-screen videos, auditions that have to happen, and every school is different. So it might be that you are doing all of your pre-screen videos, you have your applications that you're trying to submit, And then maybe you have have invites for in-person auditions. It's a big layer to your application, and that is also where I see a much higher volume of applications being sent for those students who are seeking critiques and very critical reviews of their talents. So they certainly do often cast a wider net, but oftentimes the deadlines that you have to meet for pre-screen videos and things like that are different than the college application deadlines. And so students work with me to adjust those deadlines for teachers to be able to see. Anyone? Anyone? The next thing is really like, who is the most organized person in your household? Okay? In my household, it would be me, but it definitely would not be my 16-year-old son, right? Sometimes it is. And, you know, your seniors might already have spreadsheets and they're organized and everything's ready. And sometimes, like, that might all be in their brain somewhere. And it somehow has to, like, get things produced by meeting deadlines. So just taking that time to think, like, who really is the most organized? It might not even be someone in your household. A trusted adult. A favorite aunt. Like, who can keep this on track and the wheels moving without, like, World War III? Right? That's another component. But that is an important role. We don't want them to miss out on opportunities, right? Like, I wanted to apply to UC Santa Barbara. It's December 1st. They have one deadline. It's November 30th. What? Right? Like, if you don't know and you aren't keeping track and organized, then you might miss out on opportunities. Anyone check their child's email? They're going to get a lot. Helping them, like, make sure they stay on top of that. Last year I had a student apply to Florida State, and it was well into the spring, and she came in and she's like, it's just very bizarre. Like, I haven't heard from them. I don't know what's going on. Like, let's search your email. It was full of, hey, we're missing this. You haven't done your self-reported academic record. And they got that message multiple times. Kind of like the American Civics exam. We send these emails like, this is missing, do this. So, like, that is just a significant component of, like, what do we need at every single school? Like, let's create this, whether it's a Google Sheet so everyone can access it. You don't have to talk, maybe. You just look at it, like, turn it green when you have it done. Whatever, like, would be a good system, but helping them stay on track. Really, in your household, these are the things that, like, the student is responsible for. Completing, submitting the application, making sure all the components are there. If there's an application fee, paying that, or if you're eligible for waivers, marking that within your application or getting that signed off through me. Going into Naviance, requesting transcripts. I don't know to send it until I have a request to send it, right? And sometimes there's a request to send it, and the students are like, why haven't you sent that yet? Like, well, because it needs 2 teacher recommendations, and you've, like, invited them, but I'm waiting for them to show up, right? Your deadline's not till November 1st. Everything will get there, but, like, that's the component, like, inviting the right amount of teachers, talking with a counselor to do their forms, and requesting those transcripts. And then as the deadlines approach, having those conversations, just making sure I provide those reminders to teachers as well. So making sure that everything, I have my own spreadsheet for every senior and what they have going on and who they've invited to write for them, and I'm keeping track as those come in, and once everything on that line is there, boom, it all gets submitted, okay? It delivers instantly, and so really the teachers have time to get those out. You do not have to wait, as I told the seniors, you do not wait for your bundle, your transcript, your rec letters. You wait for none of that. You are responsible for your application and inviting everyone to do those things, okay? Student submits the application, we submit the supporting documents. Everything arrives by the deadline, it's a complete file. And there's usually grace for, this is missing, there comes the emails, they don't check the emails, they don't know it's missing, so making sure they stay on top of that. The bottom one is becoming less and less, the official test scores. It's $18 to send your test score to a college, which is absurd. You've already paid to take the test, right? Colleges don't want you to have to pay $18 to send them a test score. So most of them are allowing students to simply self-report it in the application. This is my score, if they want, or apply test optional, right? And then I'm telling you, I have a 27 on my ACT. And the college is saying, great, thanks for letting us know. And the kids are like, wow. They just trust me, right? If they accept you and you choose to go there, they're going to say, okay, now send us the official, pay your $18, okay? And you're only doing that to then one school. There are some schools, however, that it simply says, if you're sending us a score, we need it to come directly from the testing agency, and so you have to actually log in and send it. Or if you want to send your super score, the only way you can do that is ordering a super scored report from ACT. So you really do have to, the students only look at Common App, but you have to actually go to each college website and look at their checklist of what do they actually need from me. I just talked about Florida State with their self-reported academic record, right? It's typing in their entire transcript. And there's a part of that on the Common App too, but yet they want it in their fancy form, okay? So just making sure that all of that's happening. This is an example of a student that shared their spreadsheet with me. They were looking at engineering programs, so was the school on the Common App or not? What were their deadlines? So again, you can sort, I have some in October, I have some in December. Are test scores required? How many extra essays? Do I need teacher recs? Do I need the council recommendation? And then, we're also thinking about the financial component. So if the school sticker price is $83,000 for 1 year, then I have a column for do I get anything? So then in the end, it's not, I'll have students say I got $20,000 at this school and I only got $4,000 at this one. But that doesn't mean anything unless what did that bring your total cost to, right? 20,000 off of 80 versus 4 off of 20, I'll take the 4. So it's really looking at what do you need? What is gonna help you make that final decision? If cost is a component, then that's important to be on there. I have other spreadsheets that are shared with me that it's the miles from my door, my house, and is this something that I'm, comfortable with? Or they have notes from their tours or pictures, and make it your own and what will make sense to help you make a final decision in the spring. For the transcript component, you can see that transcript, right? We talked about where to get that in Infinite Campus. The transcript you see in Infinite Campus is identical to the transcript I'm sending them. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade is listed, And then I also include a copy of their schedule for 12th grade. Okay, so it's everything that they've taken and earned, and then what's still to come. That's where the colleges are looking at, are you gonna have 4 years of English? Are you gonna have 4 years of math? Right, your transcript doesn't show that. The only GPA that's on our transcript is a weighted GPA, right? Our scale is out of 4.0. So it's possible that you could have a 4.073 out of 4.0, okay? It's not like some students put that our scale is a 5.0. It's impossible to get a 5.0, so you don't want to put that as the scale, right? It's a weighted scale if you have ever taken any honors or AP classes. It's unweighted if you have taken all standard courses. And that's how you want it reflected, okay? There are also, many of them, some simply, what classes do you have and what's your GPA? And that's where they stop. Others that are doing a more holistic or selective review are looking at your rigor. How challenging were your courses, and how successful were you in that path. We do not rank. We have not ranked for many years. It was actually, you know, it might seem surprising, but it was a very unhealthy culture, ranking students and putting them in order based on their GPA. And really only the top few students benefited from that. As a non-ranking district, we do recognize Latin honors, so students will graduate with summa cum laude, magna cum laude honors, and that's on our profile. So colleges can still reference like summa cum laude as a 4.0 or higher, and our profile says like how many people in the graduating class of 2023 fell in that category. They also know how many people are in our school and in that class, so it gives them some type of reference of where you might be falling. So non-ranking, but there is reference to that. The students, we kind of navigated through how in Naviance to request transcripts. That is also in the handout that's posted on our senior class page. Step one is that they have to give permission to share their transcript outside of our school, right? I want you to release this information. So it is a Google form. It does ask for a parent signature. And so some of them are like, does my mom need to be here when I type her name? But it's ultimately your name and email address will give you then a copy of that release form. If you have not received that, they probably haven't done it yet. Okay, so that is like a big step one, and that is on the senior class page. And then the handout walks them through how to request those transcripts. As a parent, if you log in as a parent, you can't actually request transcripts. You would have to be in the student portal, but you can see if they have made transcript requests. So that could be something that you look for. So the release of records, it's a Google form now, but it's basically all the legal privacy information. And the colleges are asking students to waive their rights to view their recommendation letters. The colleges want to know that the student didn't see the letter because they want to know that they didn't influence the content, so that it's confidential, honest, candid, and that can be like unnerving. Like I'm asking for a letter of recommendation and I don't get to see what it says. Again, I'm bundling and submitting everything to colleges and I'm reading all of those letters. I am never going to send something that is not supportive of the student's application. If I have 2 recommendation letters because one of the colleges required 2, and then I have another school and they won't take any letters, I can't send any. If this school will only take 1, I'm going to look at both of them and figure out which one is most comprehensive. In which letter do I learn the most about the student? like in this one snapshot, okay? So that FERPA waiver is the yes, I waive my rights, and it sounds very scary. But it is what the colleges are asking students to do. So we have that on our release form, and they also have to sign that off in their Common App if they're using that application. So I waive my rights. We tell you on the form, like, yes, you want to waive your rights. And then if you say, I do not waive my rights, you can't actually even see the letter until you're accepted into that college and are attending and can look in the file that they have in the office for you. But most of them will just disregard any letters that you send if you say that you're not going to waive your rights, okay? Self-reported, I talked about that briefly with Florida State. Like, some of them have their own forms. There is a section in the Common App where they might have to fill out the courses and grades section. As I told them, don't touch it if it says 0 of your colleges require this. Okay? You might apply to 7 schools and none of them need that section. Don't fill it out. It will tell you. If 1 of your schools require it, then you do have to fill out the entire section. It's taking your 9th grade courses, entering them line by line. What grade did you earn? How much credit did you get? You're doing their data entry. So they can calculate your core GPA, or they can see how many English you have, how many math you have. It's their filtering, but you're doing all of the data for them. Because then if I send them the transcript, it says the same thing, but it's on a PDF. Right? So I encourage students just go into Minute Campus, print your unofficial, and start typing. I had a student make an appointment with me after school one day, and we just sat together and did it. Like, we were done in a half an hour, but you know, it can feel overwhelming. It doesn't take that much time. But similar to the test score, if they're admitted, like, you're self-reporting, right? Here are all my grades in high school. Just trust me. This is what I got. This is what I took. If you're accepted and you choose to go, then you have to have your final transcript. And what they found really is that students are very honest. You know, maybe a B plus became a B plus and it was really a B minus. And they are looking for those kinds of things, but for the most part, they said people have been really honest. On that self-reporting, anything that says H on your transcript, report that as an A plus, because H's are not common across the country. We are actually transitioning to move all of those to A pluses, but you know, they're equivalent. For those test scores, again, most are test optional. There is no benefit to SAT versus ACT. It does not matter, regardless of what school you're applying to. If you have both, you know, which one is a stronger profile for you, but you certainly don't have to take a particular test. I have had a lot of students saying, you know, should I take it again? Do I need to retest? If we are heading into the application season, you have maybe the April test score and want to give it another shot. Probably September is too late because it's this weekend, but there is a test in October. And most colleges, even to hit that November 1 deadline, will accept the September and October ACT scores. So you might have to apply with what you have or apply as test optional, and then if you get an increased score, send that to the schools. There are other schools that will continue taking test scores, increased scores, throughout the entire year. Okay? If you apply, send what you have to Mizzou, you get this scholarship, and then you want a higher scholarship, and you keep taking the ACT over and over. Like, you can continue sending increased scores all the way through this summer coming up, and they will continue repackaging for you. So you have to just kind of look at the individual schools. A student and I were looking at Kentucky. She's like, I don't know if I should retest. And it was like, if she got 1 more point, it was $5,000 more per year. So how much is that really? $20,000. So is that worth a 4-hour Saturday for 1 point? For sure. So it's really like evaluating your situation and seeing what makes sense. Do they have fatigue, right? I had one student test, and every single time she tested, it went up 1 point. So she was like, why should I stop, right? And she did it 8 times and ultimately got 8 extra points. Never seen anything like that before. But, a lot of people hit a plateau or they start decreasing, and you're like, okay, we're done. Sending, not sending, we talked about that a bit. Like, look at the average scores for that school. You're making a decision per school. I might send to one school and not another, but I'm making that decision as I go. Some of them with test optional have additional components. If you don't send your test score to Mizzou, they have you write kind of like an essay and share a resume. Okay, so they're replacing that testing component with additional information. But many others are simply like, send it or don't send it. It's more like a resume item. Also, make sure you're checking those scholarships, right? If I applied test optional, like, do they have a different way of reviewing scholarships than if I send my score, am I like on this chart and I'm gonna do really well, or like I don't want them to see it because my GPA alone is gonna get me a higher scholarship. So you're kind of looking at each individual school. If you send the scores, again, self-reporting is what some of them do. You can ask for it to be included with your high school transcript, and I scan your testing card and send it with the transcript, and then some of them do require you to send scores directly from the ACT. For those letters, again, we're waiving our rights. We only ask teachers if it's required for admission. So I'm applying to WashU. They require 1, but we'll take 2. I'm not inviting 7 people to write for me, right? The most I could ever send is 2. So your list of schools, you're applying to University of Illinois, Urbana, 0, will not take them, okay? So your list determines what you will request, okay? Colleges want to hear from core teachers from junior or senior year. Cores are English, math, science, social studies, and world languages. So those are kind of the pool of teachers that students can choose from to be classified as that teacher recommender. We want and have asked students to give teachers 2 to 3 weeks before a deadline. So again, if we think about like, if I have an October 15 deadline, I really should be asking sometime this month. Getting those secured, talking to them about your deadlines, talking about why you need that particular letter. It's not for fun, right? This is like a specific need within your application. Teachers have until the deadline to submit their recommendation, just like students have until the deadline to submit their application. Everything just has to arrive. One doesn't have to go before the other, okay? They're 2 separate submissions for that process. For the counselor piece, some colleges also require this component. So there are 5 counselors at Central High. Your student is assigned a comprehensive counselor. I'm the only post-secondary counselor, but there are also counselors that sponsor things, coach basketball, like, and students have different relationships with all 5 of us. So this is driven by whomever the student requests. All 5 of us are willing to prepare forms and write recommendations for all 340 seniors, but we don't know to do it until we're invited. Okay, that's just a conversation, and if we're writing and don't know the student super well, we also have a survey in Naviance that we have students to fill out that helps with that component. So any of the 5 of us, but they have to connect with at least one of us. Not every school has essay requirements, so if you're applying to that sampling of schools across the top, application, transcript, test scores maybe or maybe not. That's it. You can apply to Missouri State in 15 minutes. No essays, no rec letters, just my application, and then I request my transcript, and I decide if I want to also have test scores. And then within the Common App, you may or may not have an essay. There's a main personal essay that can be up to 650 words. They give you 7 prompts. You choose how to respond to that, and that's common. That's your personal essay. That goes to all of them. Some of them require it. If you've already written it, each school will ask, like, we don't require it, but do you want to include it? So you could add that to all of the Common Application schools. And then you go into the My Colleges section where you've actually added the schools that you're interested in, and they might have more essays. Those can be really big surprises, right? So the student might have their personal essay all nailed down, think they're done with the Common App, and then they go to submit, and they're like, writing supplements, extra essays, why do I want to go to this school? Here's 500 more words. So getting everything into the applications, previewing all of those components so you know what is coming and create that timeline of getting everything nailed out. Okay. So big things with the essays, obviously the chat, actually write it, but what I hear from the admission representatives is they can usually tell when a grown adult with a lot of life experiences has written an essay. That mom has applied to college, not a senior, right? I know those things happen, right? One of my friends has a senior, and she's like, well, when I apply to this college, I'm like, when you apply, right? The student is applying, right? And so, like, they can tell, like, so it really should sound like them, sound how they talk, sound how they think. If I pulled a random essay out of this audience and read it to the audience, like, if it was written by your child, you would know, because it sounds like them. So that is a goal of that essay, that it should be authentic, really feel like them, they're trying to get to know them. So if I finish reading this essay and I know a lot more than I ever thought I would ever need to know about jazz music, like it might be a super important component in your life and really influenced you, but if I learned more about jazz than I did about you, you missed the mark, right? If I learned more about your travels abroad, about the country and the destination and not about you, you missed the mark, right? I'm trying to learn about you. And so it should be your voice. Often dialogue, things like that can help. For demonstrating interest, that used to be a big component. There was a wave of the colleges really trying to see our students interested. And so you got a checkbox if you met with them when they came to Parkway Central. You got a checkbox if you scanned at the college fair. You got a checkbox if you did a on-campus visit or a virtual tour. And they're really for purposes of equity. Not everyone can do all of those things and fly all over the country and visit campuses and, meet with the admission representatives and connect with them. So that has really gone away. Very few schools are monitoring and tracking that. But it could still be beneficial to do authentic research, to visit a campus. Do I like it? What did I learn about that school? To meet with the rep when they're here. Not to get a checkbox, but because, I want to learn as much as possible. So when I'm writing this essay that says, why do you want to go to school here? I understand and know that school, and they can see and feel that. So you're not trying to get a box checked in tracking the interest, but you're trying to learn as much about the school as possible. The person that comes to Parkway Central is usually at least the first line, if not the only line, that's reading your application. So connecting with them can be really important. So I know, at least in an email I sent out to junior and senior parents, like the college visits started today. The students go into Naviance, click on colleges, college visits, and this is just a snapshot of today even. So WashU, UChicago, we're here, Murray State, TCU, Carbondale are tomorrow. And then there's a register button. You simply click register now and you sign up. And then Ms. Akers, our department secretary, sends like a college visit pass to the students. It's during the day. They're visiting our campuses during the day. It's during class, often. So obviously, there is a sacrifice to that, and in stepping out of class to come meet with the rep. If you're 9th and 10th grade, right, they're coming again. But this is an annual thing that's happening. The fall is really heavy because they travel before November 1st. And then they stop because they're reading applications. So this is the window that they're really coming in. So also the upcoming fairs, the Parkway Fair with Rockwood is on Monday. There's an HBCU fair on the 23rd at Harris Stowe, and then the National Fair at SLU in October. So those are 3 fairs that usually have a lot of colleges present. I think the Parkway one is around 114 colleges right now. So it's a quick way also to connect, get information about schools. Again, I'm running out of time. I talk too much, but when they get decisions. So some students applied August 1st, and the school was doing rolling admissions, and within a couple of weeks, you get your decision. Then you're going to have all these next steps. As soon as you get an admit, they want you to pay your enrollment deposit, right? Okay, we accepted you. We're ready for you. Come on in, sign up, do all this. You don't have to make that commitment until May 1st. But once they accept you, here's your checklist. Do all these things. We want you to come, okay? But you have until May 1st. Once you do make that decision, you'll withdraw your applications at all the other schools. So if you have applied early decision somewhere, you get in. You do have to contact those schools and say, thank you for considering my application, but I have committed to another school. And then you'll do all the fun things, choosing your dorms and doing roommate selection, and then it never stops, really, it's all year long, right? But there's always things to do, and then you will have your final transcripts. Not until you know where you're going do you worry about dual credit transcripts. Not right now when you're applying. You don't need to send an UMSL transcript, a Missouri State transcript. You're listing in the application that you're earning those credits, but you do not need to send a transcript to the institution until you know where you're attending. It's really hard when they're denied, right? It might be the first time they're being told no about anything significant, and it is crushing. It just does not define them. And so that's when wraparound support and having, good plan Bs in place are very valuable. So making sure that you're just open. If they're not talking to you, connect with us, have us check on them. That is also why we are here. We hear this quote a lot. I'm in, so now I'm all good. Everything is pending your final transcript in May, right? We got to stay strong. We are proving to these colleges what we are capable of achieving. We are preparing for the rigor of their campus by having an excellent, consistent senior year, right? We got to stay strong and hold up our end of the bargain. They admit us with this GPA, this academic performance, and then slip sliding down the hill. They often will call you on it. So just knowing what that looks and feels like. Okay, a few years ago, I had a student apply to USC. They got admitted. Their second semester senior year did not look great. And the rep reached out to me and said, is there something that I should know? Something going on? Like, we're probably gonna make sure that we have wraparound support. So they didn't change their admission decision, but the student was required to do some extra stuff, wraparound support, connecting with tutors and making sure that they had a successful transition because obviously they were sliding. So it does matter. Some of them even ask for mid-year. Wow, we are having a whole night on financial aid, 2 actually with SLU, but go to the website. If you've had older children, the FAFSA has always come out in October, and this year it's a new application that the government is still working on it. Scheduled, on track to open in December. So that is where you will figure out what your expected contribution, your student aid, will look like. Some colleges also require a CSS profile. So again, it's these checklists. That's when they have maybe larger endowments or funding that they can gift. So need-based aid, like I don't qualify for need-based aid from the government, but from this institution, you could potentially qualify. So just making sure you can go to the website to see if any of the schools that you're applying to are on there. Again, we have in October and December financial aid nights here at Central. October will be in the Commons because we're gonna have a beautiful set for the play being built in here. So December will be back in this room. Scholarship Foundation is a great resource for families as well. They have workshops throughout the year, so I encourage you to look into that. Man. So for the scholarships, applying to the college by the deadline is really your best bet to get the most funds from that college. Hit those priority deadlines, get the early action, and then most of their scholarship review is with the admission review. Your application for admission is your application for the automatic scholarships. If they have then competitive scholarships, then those portals will open with supplemental applications, potentially even interviews if they are really high. We also house, like I mentioned earlier, all of the scholarships in Naviance. So under the colleges tab, there's a whole scholarship section. The My Scholarship Central, there's a link in there. It's a St. Louis database. So it's specifically for local students that's kept up. There's a national search with 3.5 million, and then that Going Mary site. There's not a season for scholarships. We're right now in a season of applying to college. Scholarships is all the time. Okay, so you're just constantly looking, even when they get to college, constantly looking, because your colleges will then have databases as well. So again, going into Naviance, you click colleges, and then that whole scholarship and money section. For need-based aid, that's the FAFSA. That's how you could access loans. Again, I'm gonna only touch on this briefly because we have financial aid nights, and I'm over. And then for the A+ program, that's the scholarship to 2 years of community college. So that is enrolling by filling out the interest form on the A+ website, meeting those requirements by the time you graduate, so 2.5, 95% attendance, and then you do 50 hours of tutoring or mentoring, could be comboed with some community service. And then your transcript, your final transcript has a special stamp on it that can go to, if it goes to a community college in the state of Missouri or technical school, then the tuition is covered by the state through that scholarship program. What we have a lot of students do is that second bullet, the summer after senior year, they can take 6 credit hours, 2 classes for free using that scholarship. So maybe instead of taking, 30 credit hours their freshman year of college, they're taking 24. To lighten, they're still a full-time student, still on track, but that is very common. And then there are schools in Missouri that just offer, like Missouri State and Truman have like a $500 scholarship for students who completed the A+ program. So there could be benefits there as well. So if they get that, all of that would automatically happen. I did touch briefly, you don't send dual credit transcripts to any college during the application process. You would do that once you know where you're attending. And then I know that I'm attending SLU, so I'm gonna go to my UMSL portal and have my UMSL transcript sent to SLU, okay? I only do that once I know where I'm going. We don't have access to UMSL records, Missouri State records, so it's really being able to log into those portals or reach out to those colleges if you don't have your access. For AP credits, you have all these great scores that you want to share with colleges. It's really a resume. So you're going to go into the application and you can self-report any AP scores. I have 4s and 5s on this. It's not required to do that, but it's like share them if they're strong components of your application. You do not send your actual AP scores to a college until you know where you're attending, and they get one report that has all of your scores throughout all of high school, okay? There's no guarantee if anything will work, right? Hannah, you learned that today. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes there's a cap. So a college could say, like, the most we'll take is 15, and you might have, like, a bazillion. It might be that we will look at AP, but not dual credit. And then some schools may say, we'll take it all. So you have to kind of know where you're going, but there are websites, transferology databases that will help you. Okay, this is it. Finally. So big key things as you're having those conversations. Do they have their list finalized? Really, mid-September is ideal because you don't want to miss deadlines, right? If we have an October 15 deadline and we don't know about it, we aren't giving ourselves much time. Is the list finalized? Are all your schools in Naviance? Okay, and is the right deadline showing? The default is regular decision. So it could look like all your deadlines are in January. So you would have to switch to that priority or early action. Have they done that release of records form to start requesting transcripts? And then if they're using the Common App, there's instructions about connecting that to Naviance, talking to a counselor, right? One of the 5 of us about doing all of their forms and recommendations, inviting the right number of teachers to write for them as well. And then do they know the essays that are upon them? That is a big component, right? And then making sure they know their social, right? I had students come to my application work week, and that's one of the first components of the application. Like, I don't know what it is. So they do actually need their social security number to do their applications. Ultimately, as you apply for financial aid, if you're navigating that, you will create what IDs, the student and the parent will create an FSA ID to be able to apply for the FAFSA. Maybe they're asking you for a credit card number, right? The application fees, or if that waiving component is available. It's hard, but realistically talk about budgets. And be on the same page. If you have multiple households, what does that look like? What does that feel like? If they get into a dream school and then don't find out until, April 15th, that's not really a realistic choice. That can be really crushing, right? So have those conversations on the front end of what is actually realistic. And the sticker price might not be realistic. But we have those net price calculators, apply, maybe the conversation is, yeah, that might be a choice if you can get, X scholarships, okay? Keeping them on track. Again, those sheets, whatever that looks like, you can be a scholarship searcher and they're the scholarship filler-outers, right? Like they're applying, but that is something that you can be helpful with as well. if you can get a safety pushed out first, it really helps the students who have already okay, I'm applied to my safety school, I already got accepted, right? Everything is bonus now. Having that positive experience of applying and getting accepted on the front end can be very valuable. And then if you haven't visited campuses yet, to make sure that you spend some time trying to do that. Even if you can't travel everywhere, you can see different types of campuses within a pretty small driving radius of St. Louis, okay? I am really over, and I'm really sorry. I talk too much. But thank you so much for coming. And, it is overwhelming, but I am here to support you. The other counselors are as well. So anytime you have questions, please know that you can reach out. Thank you.